Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. And with the World Cup almost at an end, the showpiece taking place this weekend, it's that time for the team of the tournament where, you know, a lot of players have done well, but who is going to make the cut? And myself and the Euro expert are going to be going through our team of the tournament. So guys, make sure you smash the likes on the video, subscribe to the channel and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I mean, Alex, it's been a pretty standout tournament for a number of players, teams doing well that we didn't expect to do well, players bursting onto the scene that, you know, perhaps we weren't aware of before the tournament started, mainly a lot of players in the Moroccan side. But there have been some standout performances. But let's start with the goalkeepers. Now, you might disagree with me, but I think it's probably between two. It's either between Livakovic of Croatia or Bono of Morocco. I mean, I think Hugo Lloris had a decent tournament for France. I also think Emi Martinez has not been bad between the sticks for Argentina as well. But for me, I think it's between Livakovic and Bono. Would you agree on those two?
Yeah, actually, I've got it down as Bono. I mean, up until the semi-final, the only goal he conceded was a Naif Aguerd own goal. So I don't think you can beat that. I think the Moroccan has to get it.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, just on Livakovic, do you think he's unlucky to not get that? I think he's had a fairly decent tournament. Done well in 2 penalty shootouts for the Croatians, but I do agree. I'd give it to Bono as well, just because of the fact, you know, Morocco have kept so many clean sheets and how well they've done in this World Cup.
Yeah, I think Livakovic is a little harsh to miss out, I guess, because he's probably had a bit more action facing him. The Morocco defended so well. I haven't got the stats in front of me, but I feel like they faced less high quality shots. And I think Livakovic is probably someone who will get a move. An interesting fact about him is that last year he was seen on a documentary of Luka Modric, and I think it's like a FIFA documentary, and Modric was seen on camera chatting with Livakovic, saying, "Where is your career going? You're so much better than Zagreb. Last time we met up at the World Cup, last international duty, like I thought of big things of you. You're a great player, but your career is stolen." And it was a really harsh conversation caught on camera. It's clearly set in.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think both those goalkeepers are probably keepers that will get big moves this summer, or possibly, I mean, I think January's probably a bit early, but I think certainly in the summer, I think both of those guys could be on the move. I mean, I think, as you say, Livakovic he's too good to be playing, no disrespect for Dynamo Zagreb. I don't know where Bono even plays his club football. I imagine he plays in France, but I suppose
he plays for Sevilla, actually.
He plays for Sevilla. I mean, actually, he's at a half decent level then, so maybe he could be on the move as well. But let's move to right back, and I think for me, it's kind of clear, and it's another Moroccan. It would have to be Achraf Hakimi. I mean, I know others have done reasonably well, kind of in that position, but for me, I think Hakimi's kind of the standout right back, and he probably just deserves to be in it just for that Panenka against Spain in the shootout. But I mean, is there anyone else that you think runs him close in the right back slot?
Oh, it's tough. I've got Hakimi down as well, and I like that reason as well because that Panenka was one of the best things I've ever seen. It's really hard to think because there's been quite a quiet tournament in terms of right backs. I'd give a shout out to Jules Koundé for France. He's been playing out of position. He usually plays centre back, and while it's been quite a reserved role, I think he's a big reason why France, have got to the final. Or like defenses at least, they've, especially against England, they've just done well to keep opposition teams out, and he plays an important role in making sure when Mbappe and Theo Hernandez goes forward, France aren't completely imbalanced.
Yeah, but I think Hakimi's kind of is the standout one there. In terms of the centre backs, then I've definitely got one locked down. I think you probably agree with me. One of them is definitely going to be Josko Gvardiol. I think he's had an exceptional tournament for Croatia, even though they did get twisted inside out by Lionel Messi in that semi-final. That happens to a lot better players than Gvardiol, who's one of the best young defenders on the planet. Will be certainly be getting a massive move this summer, hopefully from my point of view to Chelsea, but could be Manchester City, could be Real Madrid. We'll have to see. But Gvardiol definitely goes in. Is he one of your two?
He is one of my two, yeah. He's not my nailed-on one, though, to be fair. I debated him and Harry Maguire because I think Maguire's had a really clean tournament. I can't remember him doing a single thing wrong. And I've quite liked his passing this tournament as well. But I think Gvardiol, it's hard to overlook him.
I mean, I was umming and ahhing about putting Maguire in because I think I agree with you. He's done very well. But I just find it tricky to put someone in that's kind of a team that's only made the quarterfinal. I
Yeah,
just
I'm
feel,
with you. I'm with you.
but he has done a very good tournament. I was a little bit undecided on this one because I know the French have made the final, but they've not been that good at the back, and I've kind of torn between going with Christian Romero or Rafael Varane. I can't really decide between the two of them. I mean, have you got either of those two down? Or have you gone with someone else?
I had Varane, but I'd like to hear your argument for Romero because I could be convinced.
Well, I mean, it's not a particularly strong argument. I just think he's done. I just think he's done pretty well when he's been called upon. I know Scaloni's kind of gone with that 3, which obviously suits him when he plays that at Spurs as well. I just think he's been solid for Argentina, and it's not. I mean, you don't normally associate Argentina with kind of good defenders, but they've got the likes of Alessandro Martinez, Otamendi's having a bit of a renaissance at the moment as well. But I'd probably just give the nod to Varane. I think he's had a difficult time at Man United, but he seems to be holding that French defence together. Because I've got to be honest, I think Upamecano's looked dodgy in a lot of games.
Yeah, he's a bit hit and miss with Upamecano. I think early in the tournament he was looking really solid, particularly in the group stages. But in the last couple of games, when I think the game against England, he was a bit shaky. I'd agree. It's interesting with Upamecano. I know he's been over the past year. He's been seeing a sports psychologist and taking lessons on leadership. So he's trying to become like more of a leader, a better captain. And in the early part of the tournament, I looked to be showing, but he seems to have lost his nerve a little bit as it's gone on.
No, he certainly has. I mean, the left back was another tricky one for me. I was kind of toss up between two players. Again, two players from the final. I was either going with Acuna of Argentina or Theo Hernandez. Now, I know Hernandez is not the best defensively, but he gets forward well. He scored a real nice goal in the semi-final against Morocco, and I think he's a great player. But I'm kind of torn between the two of them. I'd probably maybe just give the nod to Acuna because I think he's a little bit better defensively. But I mean, do you have either of those down, or is there someone else that you'd like to mention?
I've got Theo Hernandez down. I agree.
Yeah.
He's not been good. He's not been fantastic defensively, especially in that penalty given away against England. But I remember watching the first game against Australia. Obviously, he came on for his brother Luca Hernandez, and the moment he came on, the game completely changed for France. They looked far more comfortable in possession with him pushing so high and allowing Mbappe to come inside. I think for me, he goes in because he's a huge part of the reason why France have been able to play the way they have.
Yeah, to be honest, there's not been that many decent left backs in this tournament. I know in terms of like stand out in terms of form. But yeah, I think Theo Hernandez, that's fair. I mean, I probably do slightly prefer him to Acuna, even though I said I'd probably give Acuna the nod just because he's a bit better defensively. But I think Theo Hernandez offers you a lot more going forward. Now, in terms of this holding midfield role for this system, I think I'd like to give honourable mentions to Declan Rice. I think he's had a phenomenal World Cup. But again, for me, as I said earlier, I can't really put someone in the team in a tournament that's only played 2 knockout games. And that might seem a little bit harsh. But for me, it's another Moroccan. It's got to be Sofiane Amrabat. I mean,
yeah,
he's had, I don't know where he's come from. I did a little bit of research into him because I know Spurs were linked with him. He's obviously at Fiorentina now, but I didn't realise that he was at Club Bruges and Fiorentina paid 20 million for him a couple summers ago. And he looks a phenomenal player. I mean, he's certainly one that I think his price tag is certainly increased, and Fiorentina will be desperate to keep him because there will be suitors in January now and possibly the summer as well, likes of Chelsea, Tottenham, maybe Liverpool. There's a lot of teams looking for a good holding midfield player, and I think he's been the standout one.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's interesting at Fiorentina, he's not actually always been a regular starter under Vincenzo Italiano. I remember when I covered his potential move to Spurs. I think it was last summer. And my verdict then was this is like a talented player, so can win the ball back and drive up the pitch, like evade pressure really well. But it just seems to be a bit hit and miss. And it seems now Morocco have kind of highlighted into the world all of the good bits with him. And it'll be interesting to see, one, if Fiorentina sell him, and two, if they properly make him like a full-fledged starter.
Yeah, I mean, I could have put Chouameni there as well. I think he's had a phenomenal tournament as well. All things considered, that he's filling the boots of Kante, which is no mean feat. I think he's slotted into that into that French team very well, and it pains me every time I see him because Chelsea as a club decided to sign Saul instead of him, and that's going to haunt me forever until we bring in a top class holding midfield player. But moving forwards, then someone that I think we definitely both going to agree on, and I think if it wasn't for Mbappe and Messi with being with the shout of winning player of the tournament, I think Antoine Griezmann has kind of reinvented himself in this kind of deeper midfield role. I know it's not really necessarily left of a 3, it's more of a 10, but he does kind of drop in and make it a 3-man midfield. But we know that Griezmann's a top player and he often plays a lot better for France than he does for his club. But are you surprised that Griezmann's been able to reinvent himself this way into kind of an all-action midfield player almost?
A little in a sense, because he's been shackled at Atletico Madrid, so we haven't seen the best of him. And the reason was there was a clause for those who may not remember, when Barcelona were having a fire sale trying to keep Lionel Messi at the club. Griezmann was put on a 2-year loan with an option to buy to Atletico, and I think that obligation to buy, and what stipulated it was if Griezmann played a certain amount of 90s. So what ended up happening for the first half of the season, the majority of it, Atletico couldn't play Griezmann for like more than half of football, I believe. So he was coming on as a second half sub, and he would have a huge impact when he came on. But it's hard to kind of gauge how good he'd be. But I think back to the Euros, I think back to the previous World Cup, and I do remember Griezmann just being this champagne footballer, and it's been a joy to see him. As you said, if it weren't for Mbappe and Messi, he'd probably get play of the tournament. I think he still should be in the conversation, to be fair. There's got to be some good arguments for it. And especially, you mentioned he's been more of a 10. I'd say, actually, when France are defending, you see him drop into the centre of midfield.
Yeah.
And he's like always going to go to Kante, applying pressure around trying to win the ball back. It's been an exceptional all-round performance this tournament from Griezmann.
I mean, and to round out the midfield, I mean, there's a few options for this position. I think Jude Bellingham's had a breakthrough moment on the international stage. I think he's fully announced himself there. I think he'll obviously be an England regular for as long as he's playing football now, I would imagine. But again, for those reasons, I can't quite stick him in because he's not really gone far enough. I'd like to also give a shout out. I think Alexis McAllister's had a great World Cup for Argentina, the Brighton midfield player. I think Casemiro's done pretty well, but who I'm going to give it to is the evergreen Luka Modric. I also think Unahi from Morocco's done very well as well, but I just don't think he's done quite as well as Luka Modric. For 37 years of age, to still be pulling the strings in that midfield and putting in the level of performance that he has done in this World Cup, for me, he'll go down as one of the greatest midfield players of all time because he's just been so good. And for those reasons, Modric gets my third slot there. I mean, have you got any disagreements with Modric? Would you go for Unahi or Bellingham or someone else?
I'd go for a name you haven't mentioned. We've gone this whole time. By the way, we hadn't talked pre-recording about our teams. And spoke about the formation either. We've got the same formation down, 4-3-3. And this is the first player I've got down that's not the same as yours. Mine's Enzo Fernandez. And I think
Enzo's done well. Yeah, that's done well.
I think he's the reason Argentina have got to the final, maybe more so than Messi. And I'd be willing to fight that case. The first game and a half where Enzo Fernandez didn't play, Argentina would, there's no other word for it. They were woeful. I think their own fans would say it. I think more conservative sort of journalists, people watching the game would have said Argentina were horrific. They had no midfield structure. Their game revolved around passing the ball in a horseshoe shape until Messi arrived at the halfway line to pick up the ball, turn around and try and play a pass. As soon as Enzo Fernandez came to that team ahead of, I think it was Guido Rodriguez and then Leandro Paredes, he sat in front of the back four, the defence, received the ball, was willing to turn, try and take a man on, or just play a good pass forward. While he's also scored a great goal in that second group game against, I've forgotten the name of him now. Mexico, there we go. He's scored a good goal in that. He's got a couple of assists, but for me, Argentina's structure, the way they've been able to play football, it would not have happened without Enzo Fernandez coming on in that second game. And I think Lionel Scaloni, his career has been saved by that substitution.
Mate, you made a strong case. I'll let you have that one, but I think Modric, for me,
Modric is a fair shout. Modric
is a fair shout. This front line is probably going to be pretty quick. I don't think there's any debate the fact that both Mbappe and Messi will be in the sides. The centre forward, it's one of two for me, and I'm kind of a little bit I'm slightly undecided. I think I'm more one player than the other, but I think the two options for me is whether it's going to be Olivier Giroud or Julian Alvarez. And I'll probably just give the nod to Giroud just because, well, maybe slight bias because he played for Chelsea, but also that the fact that 36 years of age, he's still performing so well, 4 World Cup goals, and even more so is the fact that if Benzema hadn't have got injured, how much of Giroud would we have really seen at this World Cup as well? So it just goes to show that I think he's made the most of his opportunity, considering I don't think he had a single shot on target in the last World Cup in 2018. To then come into this one thinking he probably wasn't going to play much, to then play pretty much every game and do so well. I think he just gets the nod over Alvarez for me. But anyone else you'd like to give a shout to?
I was debating between those two players as well. And I think Alvarez deserves a big shout. Not only is he got a couple of goals this tournament, he's been a very good presser, a very good player at stretching the lines, which has helped again for Argentina. I will say his goal in the semi-final where he ran for about 50 yards was not a good goal, and I will fight that. He got very lucky. Those
it was terrible defending. It bounced off a load of players as well.
Terrible defending and lucky bounces. I know people will hate me for that, but I will fight that till the end of time. But he's been very good this tournament. But I could genuinely go between Giroud and Alvarez. I don't think any strikers wholly convinced me this tournament. It's been more of the wide forwards, but for Giroud breaking that record and leading the line well, as you said, when Benzema was ruled out. Yeah, I think quite impressive, Giroud. He's not done so much as linking play as he usually does, but he's been on the end of those chances like he was for England. So against England, sorry. I'd be leaning towards Giroud as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that team, that's a pretty decent team. And to be fair, we didn't really disagree on that many at all. I think just the one. Just the one on Enzo
the team
Fernandez.
you've described is the one I'm looking at.
Yeah, great. I mean, it's not. We didn't really disagree on too many. I probably still would have had Modric in, but I mean, Fernandez is a fair shout. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments below, whether you disagree or agree with any of the selections that we have made. Make sure you smash the likes on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Follow Alex on socials, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, everything, all linked in the description. Euro expert for all the best football content across all of Europe's major leagues and minor leagues as well. And I'll be back again soon with another video, guys.